MWC Shanghai 2026 just spent 3 days showcasing 6G, mobile AI, and AI native networks. China is already running 6G trial spectrum in the 6 GHz band, and vendors are showing hardware that looks like pre-6G. In this video, I'm not going to recap every booth. I'm going to show you what actually mattered through 3 lenses, namely timing, AI in the RAN, and sensing. On the surface, MWC Shanghai is another big tech show involving keynotes, booths, and demos. Underneath, however, it's quietly deciding something more important: what 6G will mean in practice, and which stories the industry chooses to tell about it. Coming into this week, 2 decisions were already hanging over Shanghai. China's MIT approved trial spectrum in the 6 GHz band for 6G research in May. That's not a roadmap slide, that's field hardware. And at MWC Barcelona, ZTE and China Mobile unveiled GigaMIMO, a 6G prototype with more than 2,000 antenna elements and huge capacity gains. If you walk a show like this asking only how fast is it, you will completely miss what those moves are actually testing. So I brought a different checklist. 3 questions that any serious 6G story should be able to answer. 1. What do you guarantee about worst-case latency? 2. Where does AI actually live in the RAN? 3. What role does sensing play in the architecture? The first theme across MWC Shanghai this year is 6G as deterministic infrastructure, and it showed up more in strategy language than in demo booths. ZTE's message coming into this event was explicit, and that is 6G being built for billions of AI agents that need deterministic connectivity and not just fast connectivity. ITUR's IMT 2030 performance requirements, finalized just 4 months ago, specifically call out ubiquitous determinism as a hard 6G KPI, which is not a nice-to-have target but a requirement. The GSMA even built deterministic network services into MWC Shanghai's official program agenda as a specific track for large-scale AI use cases. So the language is right, the standards are clear, the agenda item is there. But when you ask at a booth, show me worst-case latency, not average latency, that is where the conversation gets soft, very quickly. Here is why worst case matters more than average. Imagine a factory safety system that stops a machine when a human crosses a virtual line. On the dashboard, the average network response is 2 milliseconds. Under congestion, once a day, you get a 120 millisecond outlier. The average still looks amazing. On the shop floor, that one outlier is the only one anyone remembers. That is not a statistic. That is an incident report. That gap between deterministic in a keynote and deterministic in a field measurement is exactly what ITUR's IMT 2030 requirements are trying to force the industry to answer. ZTE calls deterministic connectivity the core challenge for 6G. The GSMA has it on the program. But a hard bound on worst-case behavior in a real deployment, that is still the missing slide at almost every booth. And that is the first question almost nobody at MWC Shanghai fully answered. The second theme is AI native RAN, and here, MWC Shanghai had something concrete to show. China Mobile and Huawei walked away from this event with 2 GSMA GLOMO Awards for their joint RAN intelligence solution. Not a prototype, not a paper, a live deployment running across 200,000 sites, 1 million cells, and 6 provinces in China. Their RAN agent uses a telecom foundation model, a RAN digital twin system, and what they call the industry's first agent-to-agent interaction protocol to enable intelligent decision-making directly inside the network. ZTE came to Shanghai with its Air Max solution, which is a 3-tier AI native architecture targeting level 4 autonomous network operations. And Huawei opened the event under the theme Advancing All Intelligence with an AI-centric target network and a RAN agent built on a telecom foundation model and RAN digital twin. So the question is not, is AI in the RAN a real thing now? It clearly is. The question is if this AI is inside the architecture, or is it still a layer sitting on top, cleaning up after the network makes its decisions. The China Mobile and Huawei deployment is impressive, which is 15% automatic closure rate for poor QE tickets and 5.5% extra energy savings across the entire network. But look carefully at what those numbers measure, namely operational efficiency and energy management, optimization on top of the network. That is AI for the RAN, not AI in the RAN. The deeper question is if AI is making decisions at the air interface, the scheduler, the resource controller, and in real time. This is where the answers at MWC Shanghai got much less specific. So by the middle of MWC Shanghai, the picture looks like this. Deterministic latency is on the standards agenda, named in the program, but not yet on the demo floor as a measurable guarantee. For AI native RAN, live deployments exist. GLOMO Awards were handed out, but the line between AI for the network and AI in the architecture is still blurry. And integrated sensing, which is the most activity in the research zone with real prototype hardware from China Telecom, but the least commitment on the main architecture stage from Tier 1 operators. That gap is what I want to close in the rest of this video. The third theme is integrated sensing or ISAC. And at MWC Shanghai, the 6G zone included a dedicated track titled Where Communication Meets Sensing with ZTE, Samsung, Ericsson, and others showing how sensing is being built into future network architectures. China Telecom brought a live prototype, which is a cable-free reconfigurable intelligent surface or RISE hardware that enables flexible deployment for both sensing and coverage in 6G environments. SK Telecom is here presenting ISAC research using radio signals for environmental sensing. The core idea behind ISAC is the same radio waveform that carries data, can simultaneously act like a radar. It detects objects, estimates position, and builds a live model of the environment as a side effect of communication. Vodafone and Tiami networks proved this on existing 5G Open RAN in Malaga, where base stations detected and tracked unconnected individuals indoors, with no new spectrum, no extra antennas, and no impact on live 5G performance. No hardware swap, just software on the distributed unit. In a factory, that means the network itself notices a forklift entering a restricted zone with no cameras, no additional sensors. On a highway, vehicles can sense each other beyond line of sight. Indoors, centimeter-level positioning for XR without GPS. And at city scale, crowd safety monitoring in public spaces without invasive surveillance through standardized APIs that expose privacy-preserving sensing data to operators, retailers, or city managers. Here is the honest picture from MWC Shanghai, where sensing is in the 6G zone, it has its own track, and China Telecom brought real prototype hardware. But if you ask what role does sensing play in your 6G architecture, the conversation still moves quickly from demo to research poster. InterDigital and Turk Telecom showed the world's first collaborative cellular and Wi-Fi ISAC implementation at Barcelona, fusing data from both radio systems for indoor sensing. That is a standards level proof point. But a commercially committed ISAC architecture story from a Tier 1 operator, that is still missing from the main stage at Shanghai. Put the three themes together and a clear picture emerges from MWC Shanghai 2026 on deterministic latency, ITUR's IMT 2030 requirements, formerly named ubiquitous determinism, as a hard KPI. The GSMA put it on the program agenda. ZTE's whole 6G strategy is built around deterministic connectivity for AI agents, but a live measurement of worst-case latency bounds in a real deployment, not on the demo floor. On AI native RAN, the China Mobile and Huawei joint solution won 2 GLOMO Awards and runs across 1 million cells. ZTE's AirMax is targeting level 4 autonomous operations. The ecosystem is real, but when you ask where AI actually lives in the scheduler and the air interface, that answer is still soft. On integrated sensing, the 6G zone had a dedicated ISAC track. China Telecom brought a reconfigurable intelligent surface prototype. SK Telecom presented ISAC research. Vodafone proved it works on live 5G Open RAN with no new hardware. But a Tier 1 operator committing ISAC as a core pillar of their 6G architecture, still missing from the main stage. For me, MWC Shanghai 2026 comes down to 3 honest takeaways. 1. 6G determinism is in the standards and on the agenda, but the industry has not yet figured out how to put a hard worst-case bound on a live network and show it on a demo floor. 2. AI native RAN has real deployments and real awards. 2. But there is still a meaningful gap between AI that optimizes the network from the outside and AI that makes real-time decisions inside the architecture. 3. Integrated sensing is the most technically exciting story at this event, where Vodafone proved that it works on live 5G with no new hardware, but it is still living in research zones and prototypes, not in operator architecture commitments. So here is the mental model I want you to take away from this video. The next time you see a 6G announcement from Shanghai, from Barcelona, or from a press release in your inbox, translate it into 3 questions. What do they guarantee about worst case latency and not average or best case? Where is AI actually living in the RAN stack, the scheduler, the air interface, the resource controller? And what role does sensing play in the architecture and not the research poster but the architecture? Those 3 questions will tell you more about whether you are looking at a real 6G roadmap or a faster 5G with extra story than any speed number ever will. On this channel, I am not here to hype the next G or predict which vendor logo wins the next RFP. I am here to unpack the architecture behind the slideware from 5G and 5G Advanced through what MWC Shanghai showed this week, all the way to where 6G is actually heading. If you found this useful, subscribe to Techtonic. And if you want the bigger picture behind what Shanghai is previewing, watch the 6G architecture video next. It covers the 3 pillars in depth: deterministic latency, AI native RAN, and integrated sensing before any of the event noise.